There's a moment, just before you speak, just before you act, when your entire future hangs in the balance. In that moment, one word, one reaction, can either build a bridge or burn it to the ground. Most people don't realize how much power they give away when they let their emotions run the show. Anger, fear, frustration, they feel like they're in control, but in reality, they're being controlled. Today, we're going to talk about habits that don't just help you manage your emotions, they help you master them. This isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about being so steady, so grounded, that nothing outside of you can shake the inside of you. Imagine living with that kind of control, where your words are deliberate, your actions intentional, and your presence unshakable. That's the kind of life we're building here. If you believe in becoming the calm in life's storms, in shaping yourself into someone who can walk through chaos with clarity and purpose, then this is your place. Please subscribe, not just to watch videos, but to join a journey, one where each step takes you closer to the person you were always meant to be. 1. The 5-second reset. Sometimes it takes only a split second for your entire mood, your relationships, or even the course of your day to change. One comment, one look, one situation, and suddenly you're somewhere you didn't want to be. You've felt it before, that rush in your chest, the tightening in your jaw, the quickening of your thoughts. It's like your body is screaming, "React now," without giving your mind a chance to think. This is the trap most people fall into. We live in that raw, unfiltered moment where emotion drives the car and reason is tied up in the trunk. And if you've ever spoken words you couldn't take back or made choices you wish you could erase, you already know how expensive those moments can be. The Stoics warned us about this danger centuries ago. That's where the 5-second reset comes in. At first glance, it sounds almost too simple. 5 seconds. How could that possibly change anything? But those 5 seconds are the difference between you owning your emotions and your emotions owning you. When you feel that rush of anger, frustration, or anxiety, your brain is getting hit with a chemical wave, stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, designed to push you into immediate action. It's an ancient survival mechanism. In the wild, reacting instantly could save your life. But in the modern world, that same impulse is more likely to damage your relationships, your career, or your peace of mind. Those 5 seconds are your first step in making the unconscious conscious, transforming that automatic reaction into a deliberate response. Here's how it works. The next time you feel yourself about to explode, whether it's in an argument with your partner, a tense meeting at work, or even a driver cutting you off, stop. Physically, mentally, emotionally, just stop. Close your eyes if you can, take a deep, slow breath in, and start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Feel your body in that moment. You'll notice the tightness in your muscles loosening just slightly, your heart rate beginning to slow, your mind clearing enough to see the bigger picture. This is not about suppressing your emotions. It's about creating enough space for your wiser self to catch up with your emotional self. Think of it like this. You're driving down a busy road and someone suddenly swerves into your lane. Instinct tells you to slam the horn, yell something you can't take back, maybe even speed up just to make your point. But if you count to 5, you give yourself a moment to realize this person might be rushing to the hospital, they might have made a careless mistake, or maybe they just didn't see you. The point is, you don't know. But in those 5 seconds, you have the clarity to decide whether this is really worth carrying for the rest of your day. That's emotional self-defense. You're not pretending it didn't happen. You're choosing not to let it ruin your peace. The Stoics called this prohairesis, the faculty of choice. It's the idea that while you can't control the chaos of the world, you can control the space between what happens and what you do next. The 5-second reset is the modern application of that principle. It's training your mind to step back from the ledge, to resist the urge to jump headfirst into the heat of the moment. And here's the thing, it's not going to be perfect at first. You'll forget to do it sometimes. Other times, you'll make it to 3 before blurting something out you wish you hadn't. But every time you succeed, even if it's just once in a while, you're rewiring your brain to prioritize control over chaos. That's what growth looks like. From a psychological perspective, those 5 seconds also shift activity from your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes emotional responses, toward your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking and decision-making. In other words, you're literally giving your brain time to switch from fight or flight mode into think it through mode. Aristotle said, anybody can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. The 5-second reset is how you begin to gain that power. Now, let's be real. 5 seconds won't make your problems vanish. It won't turn you into a Zen monk overnight, but it will keep you from pouring gasoline on a fire that could have burned itself out. Think about the last time you regretted something you said. What if you had given yourself 5 seconds to breathe before answering? Would you have said the same thing? Would you have said it in the same way? More often than not, the answer is no. Those 5 seconds are a gift you give to yourself and to everyone around you. They say, I'm in control here. My emotions don't get to dictate my behavior. Imagine applying this habit everywhere. Your partner makes a sharp comment, 5 seconds. Your boss criticizes your work in front of others, 5 seconds. A stranger online writes something insulting, 5 seconds. Over time, you start realizing how many storms pass on their own without you needing to step into them. That's the quiet power the Stoics admired, the ability to remain unmoved by every passing wave. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This habit is the living proof of that philosophy in action. And here's where it becomes more than just a trick. It becomes a way of life. You start to see that it's not about counting, it's about cultivating presence. The 5-second reset is simply a doorway into a bigger discipline: mindfulness, self-awareness, emotional resilience. When you practice it, you're telling yourself, I value my peace more than I value winning this argument. I value my integrity more than I value this fleeting surge of pride. And every time you make that choice, you become someone you respect a little more. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who you truly are isn't defined by your worst reactions in your worst moments. You are defined by the choices you make in the quiet space between stimulus and response. The 5-second reset is your tool for protecting that space. Use it, protect it, honor it. Because one day you'll look back on situations where you could have let your emotions burn everything down, and instead you'll see how you built something better, simply because you paused long enough to remember what actually mattered. 2. Dig into the why. There's a strange thing about emotional reactions. They're rarely about what's happening right now. Sure, it feels like they are. Someone says something, does something, or looks at you a certain way, and it's like they've lit a match inside you. But if you slow down and really pay attention, you'll notice that the flame didn't start in that moment. It started somewhere else. Maybe years ago, maybe even decades. The present event just happened to throw a little gasoline on it. This is why taking a step back is so powerful. Most people don't even consider doing it. They think their anger is just about the rude comment, their sadness is just about the bad news, their anxiety is just about the thing on their schedule tomorrow. But the mind is a layered thing. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to look beneath the surface, because the surface is where your instincts live, but not where your wisdom lives. If you're willing to look deeper, beyond the words someone spoke, beyond the moment that just happened, you'll often find an older story playing out. Maybe a teacher once humiliated you in front of the class, and now, decades later, a co-worker's sarcastic remark stirs up the same sense of humiliation. Maybe you were overlooked growing up, and now being ignored in a meeting cuts far deeper than the situation calls for. You think it's about the moment, but your body thinks it's about survival. When you start asking yourself questions, why this, why now, why them, you're creating space for something the Stoics valued above almost anything: perspective. Epictetus taught, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. And if your view is clouded by old pain, you're not actually seeing the moment for what it is." The other person becomes a stand-in for someone from your past, and you hand them far more emotional power than they deserve. By digging into the why, you reclaim that power. You start realizing that while you can't control the first wave of feeling that hits you, you can control what you do next. And that's everything. Let's be honest though, digging into the why is not always comfortable. In fact, sometimes it's downright painful. It means admitting to yourself that a part of you is still wounded. It means confronting insecurities you'd rather pretend don't exist. It means looking at the messy, complicated truth of who you are, not just the polished version you show to the world. But here's the thing, avoiding it doesn't make it go away. It just keeps it in the driver's seat, where it will continue to steer you into the same conflicts, the same arguments, the same regrets. Jung believed that the unexamined parts of ourselves, what he called the shadow, hold enormous influence over our lives until we face them. By digging into the why, you're shining a light on that shadow. And light, as you know, changes everything. Think of a time you completely overreacted to something small. Maybe someone was late to meet you, and you felt unreasonably upset. On the surface, it's about the lateness. But maybe, deep down, it's about feeling disrespected, overlooked or unimportant. Feelings that have roots in your history, not in this specific person's actions. When you start tracing the emotion back, you begin to see patterns. You notice that certain types of people, words or situations always seem to hit you harder. And instead of assuming the world is out to get you, you start realizing, oh, this is my stuff. This is my work to do. That shift alone is liberating. You're no longer a passive passenger on the ride. You're in the driver's seat, steering toward better choices. The Stoics often practiced a mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. They would imagine possible hardships and think through how they might feel, why they might feel that way, and how they would respond. This was not pessimism, it was preparation. They understood that if you wait until you're in the middle of an emotional storm to figure out your triggers, you're already too late. By anticipating, by asking why before the crisis comes, you're building emotional muscle that can hold you steady when life gets loud. And here's where modern psychology and ancient wisdom meet. Therapists today often use techniques like emotional tracing or root cause analysis to help people separate the trigger from the true source of their reaction. It's the same idea the Stoics used. If you can find the root, you can weaken the weed. Without that understanding, you're just cutting the leaves, and they'll grow back again and again. Now, this isn't about blaming yourself for every bad feeling you have. It's about owning your reactions enough to transform them. When you feel triggered, instead of immediately firing back or shutting down, pause. Ask yourself, What does this remind me of? Where have I felt this before? Am I reacting to the present, or am I reliving the past? You might not have all the answers right away. That's okay. The act of asking changes your relationship to the feeling. It turns it from a command into a clue. Imagine this playing out in a real-world scenario. Your friend makes a joke about something personal, and you feel that familiar sting. Old, you might have snapped back, gone quiet for the rest of the night, or carried the resentment for weeks. But this time, you catch it. You ask yourself, why did that land so hard? And you realize it's not just the joke, it's that it touched on a vulnerability you've been carrying since childhood. Maybe you felt misunderstood back then, and now the same feeling has resurfaced. Suddenly, your anger softens. You're not just in fight mode, you're in understanding mode. You can choose to tell your friend why it bothered you, or you can choose to let it go because you see it for what it is, not an attack, but a trigger. That choice is where your strength lives. The deeper you go with this practice, the more you'll notice a side effect: compassion. When you understand that your own reactions often come from old wounds, it becomes easier to see that other people's reactions do too. That co-worker who overreacts in meetings. Maybe they were never taken seriously at home. That friend who's overly defensive. Maybe they were criticized more than they were praised. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior. It means you approach it with more perspective, which gives you more options in how to respond. And here's the real beauty of it. The more you practice asking why, the less often you'll get stuck in the same emotional loops. You start catching yourself earlier. You start seeing the patterns before they play out. And slowly, the things that used to set you off lose their power. You're no longer a match waiting for a spark. You're the one holding the extinguisher, fully aware of where the flames might start and ready to keep them from spreading. Marcus Aurelius once advised himself, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Digging into the why is how you revoke that power from the triggers in your life and return it to yourself. It's how you stop reacting blindly and start responding with the kind of clarity that changes not just your day, but the way you live. 3. Don't let resentment brew. It's strange how we think time will heal certain wounds when, in reality, it often just hides them under thicker layers of dust. We tell ourselves, "I'll get over it," or "it's not worth bringing up," but the truth is, unresolved tension doesn't dissolve, it ferments. What starts as a small irritation becomes a low hum in the background of your mind, quietly influencing your mood, your words, and even your decisions. Resentment is like emotional mold. It spreads silently, and by the time you notice it, it's already affecting everything around it. The Stoics would have recognized this pattern easily. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." But here's the thing. If you're carrying resentment, you may think you're being the better person, when in reality, you're still chained to the person or event you're trying to rise above. Holding on to resentment is exhausting, not just emotionally, but physically. Studies in psychology show that suppressed anger and bitterness can increase stress levels, weaken your immune system, and even affect your sleep. You might think you're ignoring it, but your body isn't fooled. It keeps score. Carl Jung wrote, "What you resist persists." If you resist acknowledging your resentment, it doesn't disappear. It burrows deeper, shaping your inner world in ways you don't always see. That's why the Stoics spoke so much about clarity and truth. They understood that facing reality, no matter how uncomfortable, is the first step to freedom. Pretending you're fine is not the same as actually being fine. The danger with letting resentment brew is that it changes you subtly. You might become colder, more guarded, or more cynical without even realizing it. You might avoid certain people, places, or conversations, not because the present moment is dangerous, but because the past is still whispering in your ear. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." That's not about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing that as long as you hold on to resentment, you are cooperating with the very thing that hurt you. You're letting it keep its grip on your life. The antidote isn't denial, it's confrontation. Not the aggressive point a finger and shout kind, but the courageous, clear, and calm kind. It's saying, "This happened, it hurt, and I'm willing to talk about it." It's addressing the wound before it festers into something bigger. And yes, it's uncomfortable. It forces you to be vulnerable. But vulnerability is not weakness. It's the doorway to real resolution. Aristotle believed that virtue lies in the balance between extremes, in this case, between explosive anger and silent bitterness. By having the conversation, you're choosing the middle path, neither bottling it up nor letting it erupt. Think about how resentment behaves in relationships. A friend cancels on you repeatedly without explanation. You don't say anything, telling yourself it's not worth the drama. But over time, every text they send irritates you a little more. You stop answering as quickly. Your tone shifts. One day, something small sets you off, and you react in a way that surprises even you. The friend is confused because they don't see the months of silent frustration that built up in the shadows. This is what happens when you let resentment pile up. It turns molehills into mountains, and by the time you try to climb them, you're already out of breath. From a Stoic perspective, addressing resentment early is a way of maintaining inner order. The injury might be a single moment, but resentment makes you relive it over and over. Each time, it leaves another scratch on your peace of mind. And here's the most ironic part. While you're carrying all that weight, the person you're resentful toward may not even know. They're living their life, while you're lugging around an invisible burden they don't feel. That's why holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It just doesn't work that way. Now, confronting resentment doesn't always mean confronting the person directly. Sometimes the conversation you need to have is with yourself. Maybe the person is no longer in your life, or maybe speaking to them isn't safe or healthy. In that case, your work is internal. You write about it. You say the things you wish you could say out loud. You allow yourself to feel the anger fully, not as an indulgence, but as a way to process it and move it through you. The Stoics practiced view from above, imagining life from a wider perspective. When you zoom out far enough, you realize that most grudges shrink in size compared to the whole span of your life. That perspective doesn't erase the hurt, but it does make it easier to loosen your grip. Carl Jung believed that what we leave unexamined in ourselves often gets projected onto others. If you've ever found yourself suddenly irritated by someone for no clear reason, it might be because they mirror a part of yourself you haven't accepted. Resentment can sometimes be less about the other person's flaw and more about your own unacknowledged pain. By doing the work, reflecting, writing, asking hard questions, you separate the real wound from the imagined one. That clarity is liberating. It's also worth remembering that resentment thrives in silence. Left unspoken, it grows wild. This is why clear communication is not just a relationship skill, it's a form of emotional hygiene. You wouldn't leave your home uncleaned for months and expect it to be pleasant to live in. Why treat your inner life any differently? When something bothers you, speak up, not with hostility, but with honesty. When you said that, I felt hurt. When this happened, I felt overlooked. It's simple but powerful. You're not accusing, you're revealing. And in that revealing, you create a space where resolution is possible. The Stoics knew that emotional control doesn't mean emotional avoidance. Marcus Aurelius admitted in his journals that he had to deal with difficult people daily, but he also reminded himself that those people were part of the same human family, subject to the same flaws and weaknesses he carried himself. This mindset doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment, but it does mean recognizing the shared humanity in those who hurt us. When you see that, resentment loses some of its sharpness. Picture this. You're carrying a heavy bag of rocks. Each rock is a grudge, a slight, an unresolved tension. Some of them you picked up years ago, others you added just last week. At first, you tell yourself it's fine, you're strong enough. But over time, the bag gets heavier and you start moving slower. Life feels harder, not because the world has changed, but because you're weighed down. Now imagine setting that bag down. The relief, the lightness, the freedom to move again. That's what letting go of resentment feels like. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Resentment makes you suffer before, during, and long after the original event. Letting it go doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It means you refuse to keep suffering for it. You choose your own peace over the satisfaction of holding on. And that choice, repeated over time, changes you. You become lighter, quicker to forgive, not because you're naive, but because you're wise enough to know that bitterness costs more than it's worth. In the end, resentment is a debt you pay for someone else's actions. The Stoics, Jung, Aristotle, they all, in different ways, urged us to stop paying that debt. Face the tension, have the conversation, do the inner work, not for them, but for you. Because the moment you stop letting resentment brew is the moment you start reclaiming your energy, your clarity, and your life. And that, more than any grudge, is worth holding on to. 4. Name it to tame it. There are moments in life when your emotions feel like a tangled ball of wires, knotted, messy, and impossible to separate. You know you're feeling something, but it's so jumbled you can't quite put your finger on what it is. One minute you're irritated, the next you're sad, and then suddenly you're snapping at someone for no clear reason. That's the tricky part about emotions. When they go unnamed, they roam free, causing chaos wherever they please. The truth is, when you don't take the time to identify what you're feeling, your emotions start running the show, silently pulling strings while you think you're in control. The Stoics had a very practical view on emotions. They didn't deny that feelings existed. They simply believed that in order to live a good life, you had to understand them, question them, and put them in their proper place. When you can label what's happening inside you, it's like turning on the light in a dark room. The monsters look smaller, the shadows lose their shape, and you can finally see where to step next. This is the essence of name it to tame it. You can't fix what you can't define. Imagine going to the doctor and saying, "I just feel bad." That's not enough for them to know if you've pulled a muscle, caught a virus, or broken a bone. They need specifics. The same goes for your emotional health. If you simply say, "I'm upset," you're dealing with a vague cloud of feeling that could be anger, disappointment, fear, guilt, or a mix of all four. But when you stop and ask yourself, "What exactly am I feeling?" you start peeling away the layers of confusion. Suddenly you're not fighting a faceless enemy. You're dealing with something you can understand, something you can respond to. Modern psychology backs this up. Neuroscientists have found that simply labeling an emotion, literally putting it into words, can reduce its intensity. It's called affect labeling, And it works because naming the feeling activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and decision-making. In other words, you're moving the experience out of the purely emotional part of your brain and into the rational part. That's how you stop spiraling and start thinking clearly again. Epictetus would have appreciated this science. He taught that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Naming your emotion is the first step to changing that interpretation. Let's look at a real-world example. Say you're working on a project and someone makes a comment that hits you the wrong way. You immediately feel hot in the face, your chest tightens, and you want to fire back with something sharp. If you don't pause to identify what's happening, you might think, "I'm angry." But maybe you're not truly angry. Maybe you're embarrassed because you felt criticized in front of others. Or maybe you're anxious because their comment made you doubt your abilities. Those are very different emotions, and they require different responses. Anger might push you to defend yourself. Embarrassment might push you to avoid the situation, and anxiety might push you to seek reassurance. But you'll only choose the right path if you know which emotion you're actually dealing with. The Stoics would tell you that emotions are like signals. They're there to inform you, not to control you. When you can't name what you're feeling, you suffer twice. First, from the emotion itself, and second, from the confusion of not knowing what to do with it. That's why the act of naming it is so powerful. It's not about pretending the feeling isn't there. It's about understanding exactly what it is so you can deal with it properly. And let's be honest, sometimes what we call anger is actually hurt. Sometimes frustration is just unspoken fear. And sometimes sadness is really exhaustion in disguise. By naming your emotions, you strip away the false labels you've been living with and replace them with truth. This doesn't magically make the feeling disappear, but it changes your relationship with it. You go from being inside the storm to standing outside, watching it pass, knowing it will move on. There's also a level of self-respect involved here. Taking the time to figure out exactly what you're feeling is a way of saying, "My inner world matters. I'm worth understanding." It's easy to dismiss our emotions as overreactions or to push them aside because they feel inconvenient. But the Stoics never said to ignore yourself. They said to know yourself. Aristotle famously wrote, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Naming your emotions is one of the simplest yet most profound ways to start knowing yourself better. Think about how this plays out in your relationships. If you walk into a conversation saying, "I'm mad at you," the other person will likely get defensive. But if you can say, "I felt hurt when you said that," or "I felt left out when that decision was made," you shift the dynamic entirely. Now, it's not about accusation, it's about clarity, and clarity is where understanding begins. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You can't become who you truly are if you're lost in a fog of unnamed emotions. It's also worth noting that naming your emotions doesn't mean indulging them. The Stoics didn't believe in wallowing, and neither should you. Once you've named the feeling, the next step is to decide what to do with it. That's where your philosophy, your values, and your self-discipline come into play. The feeling might be valid, but that doesn't mean every reaction is. Epictetus advised, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery starts with awareness. You can't master what you refuse to even look at. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. You'll catch yourself mid-reaction and think, "Wait, what am I actually feeling right now?" You'll get better at noticing the difference between irritation and disappointment, between fear and excitement, between guilt and shame. And that awareness will make you calmer, more thoughtful, and more in control. It's not about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming emotionally intelligent. And the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more resilient you become in the face of life's challenges. Naming your emotions is like mapping uncharted territory. At first, it feels awkward. You're not sure which paths to take or how to describe the landscape. But the more you practice, the clearer the map becomes. Eventually, when an emotion rises up, you'll know exactly where you are and how to navigate through it. Naming your emotion is the first step toward changing that judgment, toward reclaiming your ability to see clearly and act wisely. And here's the thing, emotions aren't the enemy. They're part of being human. They're like visitors knocking at your door. If you ignore them, they might pound harder. If you let them in without asking who they are, they might make a mess. But if you open the door, greet them by name, and decide how long they can stay, you remain the host. That's the essence of the Stoic approach, to acknowledge reality, understand it, and respond in a way that aligns with your highest self. Next time you feel that storm brewing inside you, don't rush to silence it or let it take over. Stop, breathe, ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Name it, own it. And in that moment, you'll discover what the Stoics knew all along. Naming your emotions is the first step to taming them, and taming them is the first step to true strength. 5. Keep stress in check. There's a reason why the same small annoyance can roll off your back one day and completely unravel you the next. It's not always about the event itself. It's about the state you're already in when it happens. If your mind is calm, if your energy is balanced, you can navigate challenges with clarity. But when you're worn down, running on empty, and carrying a pile of invisible pressures, even the tiniest inconvenience can feel like a personal attack. This is what stress does. It magnifies every emotion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And our judgment is never more clouded than when we're stressed." Stress doesn't just live in your body, it lives in your perception, quietly distorting the way you see the world. Think about a day when you woke up after a good night's sleep, had a slow morning, maybe even got some exercise or fresh air. On that kind of day, you can handle traffic, delays, or an offhand comment without much fuss. Now think about a day when you're running late, skipped breakfast, and your phone is buzzing non-stop. That same traffic feels like a personal insult, the delay feels catastrophic, and the offhand comment feels like a direct attack on your worth. The difference isn't in the events, it's in you. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." If you don't notice the stress building inside you, you'll mistake every external challenge for the real problem, when in reality, the storm started within. Stress is sneaky because it rarely announces itself with flashing lights. It builds slowly, weaving itself into your daily life until you can't tell where normal ends and overworked begins. And because we've normalized it, wearing busy like a badge of honor, we don't realize that we're walking around in a constant state of low-level fight or flight. The Stoics, despite living in a far less hectic time than ours, understood the need for regular mental maintenance. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Stress feeds that imagination. It convinces you that everything is urgent, that every challenge is bigger than it is, and that you have no room to breathe. Without actively managing it, stress will rule your reactions before you even get the chance to think." The key to emotional control, then, isn't just about what you do in the heat of the moment. It's about what you do long before the moment arrives. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining challenges in advance so they wouldn't be caught off guard. You can take a similar approach with stress. Manage it daily, so when life throws something unexpected your way, you're not already at your breaking point. This means building habits that create a buffer between you and the chaos. Exercise to move tension out of your body. Meditate to clear mental clutter. Write down your thoughts so they don't swirl endlessly in your head. Take short breaks before you need them, not after you've hit the wall. These are not luxuries. They are maintenance for the most important tool you have, your mind. From a psychological standpoint, stress management is not just about feeling good. It's about keeping your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, online. When you're stressed, your body pumps out cortisol and adrenaline, which pull you into survival mode. That's great if you're running from danger, but terrible if you're trying to have a calm conversation or make a smart decision. Aristotle believed that virtue was found in balance, not in excess or deficiency. Stress in excess is a distortion of that balance. It tips you into extremes, overreacting to minor inconveniences, withdrawing from challenges you'd normally face, or clinging to control in situations that don't require it. One of the most important things you can do is learn to recognize your personal stress signals before they become overwhelming. For some, it's physical, tight shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breathing. For others, it's mental, trouble focusing, constant irritation, or feeling like you're one step behind. The Stoics taught self-awareness as a daily discipline. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Knowing who you want to be means noticing when you're drifting away from it, and stress is often the first sign. If your reactions are sharper, your patience thinner, your perspective narrower, that's your cue to pause and tend to yourself. Here's where many people go wrong. They wait for the weekend, the vacation, or the crisis to finally rest. But stress doesn't care about your schedule. It needs to be addressed in small, consistent ways every day. That could mean starting your morning with 10 minutes of silence instead of scrolling your phone. It could mean getting outside for a walk between meetings. It could mean saying no to commitments you know will stretch you too thin. There's also a connection between stress and the stories we tell ourselves. Under stress, we tend to default to worst-case thinking. A late email reply becomes a sign we've upset someone. A delay in traffic becomes a conspiracy of bad luck. The antidote is to slow down enough to challenge those stories. Is this really a disaster or just an inconvenience? Is this person actually angry with me, or am I projecting my own anxiety? The less stress you're carrying, the easier it is to make those distinctions. Stress magnifies those irritations, making them feel personal and urgent. But if you can keep stress in check, you create a mental gap between the trigger and your reaction, a space where you can choose your response rather than be hijacked by emotion. That space is where emotional control lives, and stress management is what keeps it wide open. The Stoics didn't have smartphones, traffic jams, or 24-hour news cycles, but they understood the principle that still applies today. Guard your inner peace as fiercely as you guard your possessions. In modern life, that means scheduling time for restoration as deliberately as you schedule work or errands. It means treating rest as a responsibility, not a reward you have to earn. And it means having the humility to know when you're stretched too thin and the discipline to pull back before something snaps. When you make stress management a non-negotiable part of your life, you're not just preventing breakdowns, you're building resilience. You're training your mind and body to recover faster, to think clearer, and to act with the steadiness the Stoics admired. And here's the ultimate truth. Stress will always exist. You can't eliminate it completely, nor should you. Some stress is what pushes you to grow. But unchecked stress is like an unchecked fire. It doesn't just burn what's necessary, it consumes everything in its path. Your job is to keep it contained, to tend to it regularly, and to never let it grow so large that it blinds you to what matters. In the words of Epictetus, "It is not things themselves that trouble us, but our opinions about them." Keeping stress in check means keeping your opinions grounded, your mind clear, and your actions aligned with who you want to be. Because when you're standing on that solid ground, the world can shake, and you'll still be steady. And that steadiness, that inner fortress, is what gives you the freedom to live well, choose wisely, and meet life's storms with the calm and clarity the Stoics considered the highest form of strength. 6. Make room for your feelings. It's a strange thing about emotions. When you ignore them, they don't quietly fade away. They linger, they build, they wait, and eventually they find a way out, often in ways you don't expect and at times you don't want. That's the thing about bottling feelings. You're not throwing them away. You're just storing them somewhere deep inside, letting the pressure build until it bursts. When you don't make room for your emotions, they start running your life from behind the scenes, influencing your words, your reactions, and even your health without you realizing it. Many people, especially men, have been taught since childhood to treat emotions like weaknesses. Be strong. Man up. Don't cry. The message is clear. Feelings are something to be suppressed, not expressed. But the Stoics, who are often misunderstood as cold and emotionless, didn't preach suppression. They preached understanding. They believed that emotions were part of human nature, but they also believed in the importance of not being ruled by them. When you bottle up emotions, they often come out sideways. A small annoyance turns into an overreaction. A minor disagreement turns into a full-blown argument. Sometimes the emotion doesn't even show up where it belongs. You might feel angry, but instead of addressing the cause, you take it out on the wrong person. This is the danger of not making room for your feelings. They don't stay neatly in the container you've put them in. They leak. They seep into your thoughts, your behavior, your decisions. Seneca wrote, "It is more civilized to make fun of life than to bewail it." But humor alone isn't enough to process emotions. If all you do is mask them with distractions, they remain in you, quietly shaping your inner world. Making room for your emotions doesn't mean letting them dictate every move you make. It means giving them a safe, controlled space to exist so they don't burst out uncontrollably. Think of it like a pressure valve. If you release a little at a time, you prevent an explosion. That's why it's so important to find healthy outlets. Journaling is one of the most effective. When you put your feelings into words, you give them structure. What was once a fog in your mind becomes something you can look at, examine, and understand. Modern psychology confirms that expressive writing can reduce stress, improve mood, and even strengthen immune function. The Stoics, in their own way, practiced a form of journaling every day. Talking to someone you trust is another powerful way to make space for your feelings. It doesn't have to be a formal therapy session. Although therapy is invaluable for many people, it can be as simple as sitting with a friend who listens without judgment. Sharing your feelings out loud has a grounding effect. You hear yourself, you get feedback, and you often find clarity just by articulating what's been swirling around in your mind. Epictetus reminded his students, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But that wisdom also works in reverse. Sometimes we need to speak to hear ourselves more clearly. For those who aren't ready to talk openly, even recording a voice note to yourself can help. It might feel awkward at first, but hearing your own voice express what you're going through makes the emotion feel less abstract. It's no longer just an invisible weight in your chest. It's something you can identify, acknowledge, and work with. Carl Jung noted, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." When you give your feelings a voice, you're choosing not to be defined by what you've held inside. You're deciding to work through it. The danger of bottling emotions is not just in emotional blow-ups, it's also in the slow erosion of your mental and physical health. Chronic stress, anxiety, depression, even physical ailments like headaches and digestive issues can stem from unprocessed emotions. The mind and body are not separate. When you stuff emotions down, your body carries the weight of them. The Stoics may not have had modern medical research, but they understood the connection between inner turmoil and physical well-being. They sought calm not only as a virtue, but as a necessity for a healthy life. Making room for your feelings is also about breaking the cycle of inherited emotional habits. Many of us learned from our parents, guardians, or cultural environments how to handle or not handle our emotions. If you grew up in a home where feelings were met with dismissal or punishment, it's natural to think hiding them is safer. But what kept you safe in one chapter of your life can harm you in another. Here's the paradox. The more space you give your emotions, the less they control you. When you allow yourself to feel sadness without judgment, it passes more quickly. When you acknowledge your anger, you can address its cause without lashing out. When you admit to feeling fear, you can prepare for what's ahead instead of pretending you're invincible. The Stoics valued preparation. They believed in facing reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Pretending you're unaffected doesn't make you stronger, it makes you unprepared. There's also a deep self-respect in making room for your feelings. It's a way of saying, I matter enough to understand what's happening inside me. So many people run from themselves, filling every quiet moment with noise and distraction to avoid facing what's really going on. But avoidance only deepens the shadow. This doesn't mean wallowing. The Stoics would warn against letting emotions dominate your every thought and decision. Their goal was balance, recognizing emotions without being enslaved by them. Making room for your emotions can be as simple as building small, consistent habits into your daily life. 10 minutes of writing in the morning, a quiet walk where you let your thoughts settle, a regular check-in with a friend, setting aside a few minutes at night to reflect on what you felt during the day without judgment. These habits don't take much time, but over weeks and months they prevent emotional buildup. They create a healthy flow where feelings can move through you instead of getting stuck. It's also about learning to tolerate discomfort. Many of us avoid our feelings because they're uncomfortable, but discomfort is not the same as danger. The Stoics embraced discomfort as a way to strengthen the mind. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." The same is true of emotional difficulties. When you sit with a feeling instead of fleeing from it, you build the resilience to handle it better next time. In relationships, making room for emotions changes everything. Instead of shutting down or exploding, you can express what you feel in a way that invites connection instead of conflict. I felt hurt when this happened. I've been feeling overwhelmed lately. These statements open doors, while silence or defensiveness closes them. The more you practice this, the more you create an environment where others feel safe doing the same. Emotional openness is contagious. It encourages honesty and trust. And here's the truth. Emotions are not interruptions to life. They are part of life. They are signals, teachers, and mirrors, reflecting what matters to us. The Stoics aimed for a life of virtue, meaning a life lived in alignment with one's highest values. You can't live in alignment if you ignore the very feelings that tell you when you're drifting off course. So, make room for your feelings, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Journal, speak, reflect, listen. Create space inside yourself so emotions can breathe, move, and eventually leave when their work is done. The more room you give them, the more room you have for peace, clarity, and the kind of strength the Stoics admired. The strength that comes not from denying your humanity, but from embracing it fully, with eyes open and heart steady. 7. Channel your energy. It's easy to think that the only way to deal with strong emotions is to talk about them. And while conversation can be powerful, it's not the only outlet you have. And sometimes it's not even the most effective. There are moments when your mind feels like a shaken soda bottle. Talking about it right then might just spray the mess everywhere. But there's another way. Instead of letting the pressure explode, you can channel it. Take all that raw energy, all that tension building inside, and give it somewhere meaningful to go. Emotions are energy in motion. That's not just a poetic phrase, it's a literal truth. You feel them physically, the tightness in your chest when you're anxious, the restlessness in your legs when you're frustrated, the heat rising in your face when you're angry. Your body is telling you, do something. The problem is, most of us do the wrong thing. We yell, we lash out, we slam doors. The Stoics would call this a failure to master yourself. Channeling your energy means finding a physical or creative outlet that takes you out of your head and into the present moment. For some, that's sports, pushing your body until the muscles burn and the mind quiets. For others, it's music, picking up an instrument, singing until your throat is raw, or losing yourself in a song that seems to understand you better than words ever could. And for some, it's art, painting until the colors on the canvas look like the storm in your mind, or writing until your thoughts stop tripping over themselves. Carl Jung once said, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." That inner necessity is often your emotions begging for release. One of the most powerful things about channeling emotion into action is that it changes the story you're telling yourself. If you're angry and you punch a wall, you reinforce the story that anger is destructive. But if you're angry and you go for a hard run, you start to see that anger can also be productive. It can push you farther, faster. If you're sad and you isolate yourself, you reinforce the story that sadness is a cage. But if you're sad and you paint, write, or cook a meal from scratch, you see that sadness can also be a muse, guiding you toward deeper expression. The Stoics believed that every obstacle can be turned into an advantage. Your emotions, when channeled, can become tools for growth instead of weapons against yourself. This isn't about avoiding the emotion or pretending it isn't there. It's about letting it move through you in a way that doesn't cause harm. Think of it like a river. If it's blocked, the water builds up and eventually floods everything around it. But if you give it a channel, it flows smoothly, giving life to everything in its path. Your energy works the same way. Without a channel, it stagnates or explodes. With one, it becomes creative, constructive, and often surprisingly beautiful. From a psychological perspective, this process is called sublimation, transforming intense or potentially harmful impulses into socially acceptable and even admirable behaviors. Freud talked about it, but the Stoics lived it. They believed in discipline, in turning raw impulses into refined action. That's why Marcus Aurelius didn't just fight battles, he also wrote meditations. It's why Seneca didn't just speak philosophy, he crafted letters that still inspire 2,000 years later. They were channeling their thoughts, their fears, their frustrations into something lasting. You might think, but I'm not an artist or an athlete or a musician. That doesn't matter. Channeling your energy is about process, not performance. You don't have to show anyone your work, time your run, or sing in tune. The value is in the doing, not the result. If cooking calms you, then cook like the meal is the only thing in the world that matters. If gardening grounds you, then dig into the soil until your hands remember what it feels like to create life from nothing. If cleaning helps you think clearly, then clean until your space reflects the order you want in your mind. The Stoics would tell you that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. By channeling emotion into action, you're training yourself to respond with intention instead of reaction. You're building the muscle of self-mastery without suppressing your humanity. And over time, you'll notice something powerful. The very activities you use to process your emotions become part of your identity. You stop thinking, "I need to run because I'm stressed," and start thinking, "I'm someone who runs." You stop thinking, "I need to paint because I'm upset," and start thinking, "I'm an artist." The action you choose becomes a part of who you are, not just something you do when things get rough. Carl Jung observed, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Channeling your emotions is a way of making that darkness conscious. You're not just blowing off steam. You're taking something raw, something difficult, and turning it into something tangible you can work with. It's the opposite of letting emotions control you. It's using them as raw material for your own growth. It's also worth saying that not all channels are healthy. Some people turn to drinking, reckless spending, or other self-destructive habits to cope. These feel like release valves, but they're really just traps, keeping you in the same cycle of pain. The Stoics would remind you that virtue is the goal. Choose channels that bring you closer to the person you want to be, not farther away. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. The channels you choose often become habits, so choose ones that build you. The beauty of channeling your energy is that it teaches you to meet yourself where you are. If you're restless, move. If you're heavy with emotion, create. If your mind is noisy, focus on something tangible and demanding, like building, fixing, or organizing. And if your energy is low, sometimes channeling means giving yourself permission to rest without guilt, because restoration is a form of preparation. Over time, you start to see patterns. You'll know which activities calm your mind, which ones help you think clearly, and which ones reconnect you to your values. You'll also learn that the very moments you feel least like doing these things are often the moments you need them most. The Stoics didn't wait for the storm to pass before they trained themselves. They trained in the middle of it. And that's what channeling your energy is. Training in the storm so you're stronger when the next one comes. So the next time you're overwhelmed, ask yourself, where can I put this? Don't just carry it. Don't just suppress it. And don't just unload it on the people around you. Find your channel. Run until your legs remind you you're alive. Paint until the colors on the canvas make sense of what words can't. Play music until the notes match the rhythm of your heartbeat. Build something, fix something, grow something. Use the energy, not as something to fear, but as something to fuel you. Because that's what emotional mastery really looks like. Not the absence of feeling, but the ability to take whatever comes and turn it into something that serves you. The Stoics didn't aim to be emotionless. They aimed to be unshakable. And when you learn to channel your energy, you realize that even the heaviest emotions can become part of the foundation you stand on, not the weight that crushes you. 8. Flip to their perspective. It's amazing how quickly we can turn someone into the villain of our story. One comment, one action, one misunderstanding, and suddenly they're the problem. We frame the moment in a way that paints us as the one who's right and them as the one who's wrong. And in that mindset, empathy feels like the furthest thing from possible. When emotions are running hot, the last thing you want to do is pause and think about their side. But here's the irony. The very thing you resist in those moments is often the one thing that can diffuse the tension, protect your peace, and open a door to resolution. Marcus Aurelius, who spent his life surrounded by politics, betrayal, and war, reminded himself daily, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? That's perspective. And perspective changes everything. When we're angry or hurt, our mind narrows. It's like tunnel vision. We focus only on what they did to us, how it made us feel, and how we're going to respond. This is natural. Psychologists call it the self-serving bias, the tendency to view our own actions through a generous lens and others' actions through a critical one. If we cut someone off in traffic, we think, I didn't see them, my bad. But if someone cuts us off, we think, they're reckless and selfish. This bias isn't a flaw unique to you. It's part of being human. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology. Epictetus taught, when someone is properly grounded in life, they shouldn't have to look outside themselves for approval. In other words, our emotions about others often reveal more about our own state of mind than about theirs. Flipping to their perspective doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or pretending harm wasn't done. It's about seeing the fuller picture so your response isn't dictated purely by emotion. If something cuts deep, there's often a reason within us, a past wound, an insecurity, an unmet expectation that's amplifying the sting. By considering their perspective, we create enough distance from our own emotional reaction to respond with clarity rather than reflex. Think of a time you got into an argument and later learned information that completely changed your understanding. Maybe the friend who snapped at you had just gotten bad news. Maybe the coworker who seemed cold was dealing with a family crisis. In that moment of realization, the anger softens, doesn't it? That's the power of perspective. It shifts your emotional state before the external situation even changes. Seneca wrote, "We are often more frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." When you stay locked in your own viewpoint, you're often suffering from your imagination about their motives. Flipping perspectives brings you back to reality. The real test comes when you practice this in the moment, not just in hindsight. When the tension is fresh, try asking, what's their side of the story? They might be under pressure you can't see. They might have misunderstood you entirely. They might be reacting from their own fears and insecurities. You don't have to agree with their reasoning, but understanding it robs the situation of some of its emotional heat. It transforms your role from adversary to investigator. You're not just there to defend yourself, you're there to figure out what's really going on. This is a discipline. The Stoics treated empathy not as an occasional act of kindness, but as a tool for self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius didn't just endure difficult people, he actively sought to understand them. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I have seen the nature of the good and the bad, and recognize that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." That's not resignation, it's preparation. He knew that understanding human nature made him less vulnerable to offense. In everyday life, flipping to another person's perspective can prevent misunderstandings from snowballing. Let's say a friend cancels plans last minute. Your immediate thought might be, they don't value my time. But what if you paused and considered they might be overwhelmed, ill, or just emotionally drained? That pause could be the difference between sending a sharp message and sending one that says, "No worries, take care of yourself." One response escalates, the other builds trust. From a psychological standpoint, this act of perspective-taking engages different parts of the brain, specifically the areas related to empathy and problem-solving, rather than the amygdala, which drives fight-or-flight reactions. By deliberately imagining another person's experience, You reduce your own physiological stress response. In simple terms, empathy calms you down. And in that calmer state, you're far more capable of making wise decisions. Perspective is what makes it possible. Now, there will be times when you flip to their perspective and still conclude that they were wrong, maybe even intentionally hurtful. That's okay. Empathy doesn't require you to excuse the harm or invite it again. It simply allows you to address it without poisoning yourself in the process. The Stoics would remind you that your peace is too valuable to hand over to anyone, no matter how justified your anger may feel. Understanding someone's motives can make setting boundaries easier because you're doing it from a place of clarity, not chaos. It's worth remembering, too, that empathy is a two-way street. When you consistently practice it, you create an atmosphere where others are more likely to extend the same to you. Relationships built on mutual understanding can weather conflicts without falling apart at the first sign of disagreement. Carl Jung also pointed out, your perception will become clear only when you can look into your own soul. The clearer you are about your own flaws, struggles, and blind spots, the more generously you can interpret those of others. There's also a subtle but important shift that happens when you make a habit of this. You start to see people as complex, not as caricatures. The rude cashier becomes a person who might be exhausted after a double shift. The arrogant co-worker might be someone masking deep insecurity. The friend who's distant might be quietly battling depression. Again, you don't have to agree with their choices or let poor behavior slide, but seeing their humanity changes the way you carry the interaction. The Stoics prized this ability because it kept their emotions in check without making them cold or indifferent. One of the most practical ways to develop this skill is to practice it outside of heated situations. When you read the news, watch a movie, or hear about someone's decision, pause and think, if I were them, with their life experiences, would I have done differently? This mental exercise trains your mind to stretch beyond your own point of view, so when real conflict arises, perspective taking is already second nature. The deeper truth is this: flipping to their perspective isn't about them, it's about you. It's about refusing to let your vision narrow until all you can see is your own anger. It's about keeping your mind open enough to find solutions where others only see enemies. It's about living out the Stoic ideal of controlling what you can, your own thoughts, interpretations, and responses, and letting go of the rest. Because at the end of the day, you can't control whether they understand you, but you can choose to understand them. And in that choice, you'll often find the sting fading, the walls lowering, and the possibility for resolution growing. The Stoics would call that wisdom. Jung might call it integration. You can simply call it peace. 9. Own your emotions. There's a quiet kind of dishonesty that many people live with every day. It's not lying to others about where you were last night or what you did. It's lying to yourself about how you feel. You know the script. Someone asks, "Are you okay?" And without hesitation you respond, "I'm fine." The words roll out automatically, even if your chest feels heavy, your mind is a mess, or your stomach is in knots. It's easier that way. Easier than explaining, easier than feeling exposed, easier than risking judgment. But here's the truth. When you bury your emotions under layers of "I'm fine," you don't actually get rid of them. You just push them into the shadows where they have more control over you than ever before. The Stoics understood this deeply. People often mistake Stoicism for the absence of emotion, as if Marcus Aurelius or Seneca walked around unaffected by the storms of life. But that's not the case. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless. It's about being honest with yourself about what you feel and then deciding, with discipline, how you're going to respond. You can't examine your judgment or change your perspective if you're pretending there's no pain to begin with. Owning your emotions is the first step toward mastering them. There's a dangerous misconception in our culture that emotions, especially difficult ones, are weaknesses. We've been taught to see sadness as fragility, anger as loss of control, fear as cowardice. And for men especially, there's an added layer of conditioning. Be strong, hold it in, don't let anyone see you break. But what's really happening when you bottle everything up? You're carrying a backpack of bricks that no one else can see. On the outside, you look composed. On the inside, you're exhausted from the weight. And the longer you refuse to unpack it, the heavier it becomes. Owning your emotions is like turning on the lights in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see the furniture. You can move around without tripping over things. You might not like what you see, but at least now you can do something about it. When you don't own your emotions, your imagination takes over. You start telling yourself stories about what's happening inside you, stories that are often far worse than the truth. But when you acknowledge what you're feeling, yes, I'm angry, yes, I'm anxious, yes, I feel hurt, you strip away the mystery. The feeling is no longer this vague, looming cloud. It's something concrete you can work with. From a psychological perspective, denying emotions doesn't make them disappear. It actually makes them stronger. Suppressed emotions tend to resurface in other ways. Irritability, fatigue, trouble focusing, even physical symptoms like headaches or stomach problems. Your body will always try to process what your mind is avoiding. Jung warned that what you resist persists. By resisting your emotions, you're not keeping them out. You're keeping them in, where they have more time and space to grow. Owning your emotions isn't about overindulging them either. It's not about letting them take the wheel or dictate your every move. The Stoics would never encourage wallowing. Instead, it's about meeting your emotions like you would a visitor at your door. You acknowledge their presence, you let them speak, and then you decide how long they get to stay. You don't have to hand them your keys and let them move in, but you also don't slam the door in their face and pretend no one's there. Think about the last time you felt truly angry. Did you admit it to yourself right away? Or did you try to reframe it as, I'm just tired, or it's no big deal? What happened after? Chances are the feeling didn't go away. It just leaked out in snappy comments, passive-aggressive behavior, or a restless mind that wouldn't let you sleep. Now imagine that same moment, but instead of pretending, you say, either out loud or in your own head, I'm angry. Just those two words. It's amazing how much relief can come from simply calling a thing what it is. There's also a deeper layer here. When you own your emotions, you give yourself permission to be human. Too many people live under the illusion that they have to be unshakable all the time. But unshakable doesn't mean unfeeling. The Stoics didn't deny grief, they wrote about it. They didn't deny fear, they prepared for it. They didn't deny frustration, they examined it until it lost its power. Knowing yourself means knowing the full spectrum of your feelings, not just the ones you're comfortable with. Owning your emotions also makes your relationships stronger. When you tell someone you trust, I feel hurt, instead of masking it with silence or sarcasm, you open the door to genuine understanding. And when you communicate that honestly, you're far less likely to let resentment build. Resentment often grows in the space between what we feel and what we admit. By shrinking that gap, you prevent small hurts from becoming permanent fractures. Of course, there's a vulnerability in owning your emotions. It's not always safe to do it with everyone. Some people will use your honesty against you. This is why it's important to choose your audience wisely. You don't owe your inner world to every person who asks, "How are you?" But you do owe it to yourself to be truthful, at least privately, if not publicly. You can journal it. You can talk to a therapist. You can say it out loud when you're alone. The point is not to perform your emotions for others. It's to acknowledge them for yourself. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." The emotions you feel are not your identity. They're your signals. If you're angry, it might be telling you a boundary was crossed. If you're anxious, it might be warning you of uncertainty you need to prepare for. If you're sad, it might be showing you where you've experienced loss or disconnection. Owning those signals means you can interpret them, act on them, and use them to guide you toward becoming the person you want to be. Here's the paradox. The more you own your emotions, the less power they have over you. The very act of saying, "Yes, I'm upset," turns the emotion from a shadowy, overwhelming force into something tangible and finite. It's like putting a wild animal in a safe enclosure, not to harm it, but to observe it, learn from it, and decide how to interact with it. And over time, you realize that emotions are not something to be afraid of. They're tools. The Stoics called this practice prosos, attentiveness, paying attention to what's happening in your mind and body so you can live deliberately. If you want to live deliberately, you have to start with the truth. And the truth is, no one is fine all the time. Pretending you are isn't strength, it's avoidance. Real strength is the courage to see yourself clearly, without flinching, and still choose to act with virtue. 10. Learn your boiling point. Everyone has a threshold, a line that once crossed transforms them from calm and composed to something far more volatile. For some, it's a slow burn, a steady build-up of frustration over time. For others, it's like flipping a switch. One moment they're fine, the next they're ready to explode. And here's the truth. That limit, that boiling point, isn't inherently bad. It's part of being human. But the problem arises when we don't see it coming, when we only notice it after it's too late, after the words have been said, after the damage has been done, after the bridge has been burned. Your boiling point isn't just a mental state, it's physical. The body often knows before the mind catches up. Your shoulders creep upward without you realizing. Your heartbeat quickens. Your breathing gets shallow. Maybe your jaw tightens, your stomach twists, or your hands clench. These are your early warning systems, and if you ignore them, they'll drag you straight into a reaction you might regret. Noticing these physical cues is about making the unconscious conscious. It's about catching yourself before you pass the point of no return. The Stoics practiced this kind of self-awareness daily. They didn't wait for their emotions to spiral out of control. They monitored them like a watchman scanning the horizon for storms. Seneca wrote, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." In other words, the thing that triggered you might be small compared to the destruction your unchecked reaction can cause. And that's what makes learning your boiling point so critical. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about intercepting it before it hijacks your reason. From a psychological perspective, this interception matters, because once you cross into a full emotional surge, especially anger, your brain chemistry changes. The amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for emotional responses, goes into overdrive. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic, reasoning, and impulse control, takes a back seat. This is why people say and do things in the heat of the moment that they later can't believe came out of them. Your logical brain didn't check out because you're a bad person. It checked out because your body shifted into survival mode. The Stoics might not have used those scientific terms, but they understood the effect. That's why they valued practices that brought the mind back to a place of calm before decisions were made. So, how do you spot your boiling point before it boils over? Start by paying attention to patterns. Think back to times you lost your temper or got pulled into an emotional reaction you later regretted. What happened right before? What were you feeling physically? Were there certain phrases, tones of voice, or environments that seemed to flip the switch faster? The more you identify these triggers, the more prepared you'll be. This isn't about obsessing over every interaction. It's about knowing yourself well enough to recognize the signs. When you notice those early signs, tight muscles, shallow breathing, racing thoughts, the smartest thing you can do is step away. This is not avoidance, it's strategy. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to take a view from above, imagining the situation from a broader perspective. Stepping away is a physical version of that, creating distance so you can see clearly again. Leave the room, take a walk, splash cold water on your face, breathe deeply. These small acts interrupt the emotional build-up and give your rational mind time to catch up. It's important to remember that learning your boiling point isn't about becoming emotionally numb. The Stoics didn't aim to erase emotion, they aimed to guide it. Emotions, including anger, are signals. Anger might be telling you a boundary has been crossed. Frustration might be telling you something is unfair or inefficient. The key is to receive the signal without letting it set the entire house on fire. Your boiling point can actually be a teacher. It can show you where your boundaries are, what values matter most to you, and what unresolved issues still need attention. One practical approach the Stoics might have appreciated is what modern psychology calls urge surfing. Instead of acting on the urge to lash out, you ride it like a wave. You notice the peak, the intensity, and then you let it pass without trying to force it away. It takes practice, but it works because most emotional surges are short-lived if you don't feed them with more angry thoughts or reactive actions. This is why stepping away and taking time to breathe is so effective. It breaks the cycle before you add more fuel to the fire. And here's something worth reflecting on. Your boiling point is often lower when you're already stressed, tired, or overwhelmed. This is why managing your overall mental and physical health is essential to emotional control. The Stoics spoke about living in harmony with nature, which in part means respecting the limits of your own body and mind. If you're constantly running on empty, you're walking around with your emotional temperature already high. It doesn't take much heat to push you into boiling. Managing sleep, diet, movement, and stress isn't just about physical health. It's about giving your emotional self more breathing room. But what happens when you miss the signs? Because no matter how self-aware you become, there will be times when you realize you're already at the edge or over it. This is where the Stoic principle of self-reflection comes in. Marcus Aurelius constantly reviewed his own behavior, not to shame himself, but to learn. If you do cross the line, own it. Apologize if you need to, then ask yourself, what was the trigger? What signs did I miss? How can I catch them earlier next time? This mindset turns even your mistakes into lessons, which is something both the Stoics and modern psychologists agree on. Growth often comes through failure, if you're willing to look at it honestly. One of the most liberating things about learning your boiling point is that it puts you back in control. You're no longer walking into situations blind, unaware of how close you are to snapping. You start to recognize that moment, the tightening in your body, the quickening of your thoughts, and instead of letting it take you over, you use it as a signal to act differently. That's not suppression, that's mastery. The truth is, we can't always avoid being provoked. People will be rude, life will be unfair, circumstances will test our patience, but we can choose how far down that path we're willing to go. By learning your boiling point, you're essentially installing an early warning system inside yourself, a system that says, you're close. Pause here, and the more you listen to it, the less damage you'll have to undo later. In the end, The goal isn't to never feel anger or frustration. The Stoics would tell you that these emotions are part of the human experience. The goal is to catch yourself before those emotions make decisions for you, to know when the heat is rising and to take steps to cool it down before it boils over. That's the art of emotional control, not being untouched by life, but being unshaken by it. And when you can do that, you're no longer at the mercy of your boiling point. You're the one turning down the flame. 11. Create your personal mantra. There are moments in life when your emotions feel like they're about to sweep you away. A conversation turns tense, an email hits a nerve, or life throws something completely unexpected at you, and suddenly your mind is no longer calm and steady. It's racing, reacting, and ready to fire back. In these moments, it's easy to forget who you want to be, and instead become who the situation tries to make you. That's why you need an anchor, something to hold on to when the waves rise. The Stoics had their daily reminders, lines they repeated to themselves over and over, not because they didn't already know them, but because they knew that in the middle of a storm, memory fades and emotion takes over. A personal mantra works the same way. It's not just words, it's a compass that points you back to yourself when the world tries to spin you around. A personal mantra is short, simple, easy to remember even when your mind is scattered. It's something you can repeat under your breath, in your head, or even write down and carry with you. Think of it like a mental shield. The beauty of a mantra is that it bypasses overthinking. When you're in a heated moment, your brain isn't always interested in slow, careful reasoning. It wants to act fast. A mantra is like an emotional circuit breaker. Instead of going straight into the reaction you'll regret later, the mantra slips in and reminds you, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. A mantra is that choice in action. It's you deciding, in real time, to be the person you've committed to becoming, not the person your anger, fear, or anxiety tries to turn you into. The Stoics had many such mental devices. They would rehearse phrases each morning to prepare their minds for the challenges ahead. Seneca wrote, "All cruelty springs from weakness." A line like that could serve as a mantra for someone who wants to stay compassionate even when provoked. Or Epictetus's reminder, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The key is to find words that speak to your deepest values, because when emotions are high, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of preparation. And a mantra is part of that preparation. Your mantra should be personal, not something you pull from a list of inspirational quotes just because it sounds nice, but something that feels like yours, something that, when you say it, you feel it in your bones. It might be, I choose peace. It might be, I don't break my own rules. It might be, I am the calm in the storm. Whatever it is, it should feel like you are speaking directly to yourself, not to impress others, not to fit a trend, but to remind yourself of the standard you've set for your life. Once you've found it, you practice it, not just in moments of crisis, but every day, until it becomes second nature. The Stoics called this premeditatio, mental rehearsal. Your mantra should be part of your daily mental training. Say it in the morning when you wake up, in the middle of the day when you pause, and at night when you reflect. The more you repeat it in calm moments, the more it will be there for you in chaotic ones. From a psychological perspective, mantras work because they engage your focus and interrupt negative thought spirals. They give your brain a clear, simple task. Repeat the words, hold the meaning. This keeps you from ruminating on what's gone wrong and instead directs your attention toward what you can control, your mindset, your actions, your principles. In cognitive behavioral therapy, there's a technique called thought replacement. where you consciously swap an unhelpful thought with one that aligns better with your goals. A mantra is thought replacement in its purest form. It's also worth noting that a mantra isn't about denying reality. If you're stressed, angry, or anxious, you're not pretending those emotions don't exist. The Stoics didn't run from their feelings. They acknowledged them, examined them, and then decided what to do next. Your mantra doesn't erase what's happening. It reminds you that you can face it without losing yourself. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone challenges you in a way that feels personal. Your natural reaction might be to defend yourself sharply, but instead you feel your jaw tense, your pulse quicken, and you silently repeat your mantra. I control my response. You take a breath. You speak clearly, without venom. The tension doesn't vanish instantly, but you walk away knowing you stayed true to your standard. That's the quiet power of a mantra. It doesn't change the other person, but it changes the way you carry yourself through the moment. Carl Jung believed that much of our growth comes from integrating the parts of ourselves we don't always like to see. He said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your mantra can help you do that. It's not just for the moments when you're calm and collected, it's for the moments when your shadow side starts to take the lead. When irritation, insecurity, or pride tries to hijack you, the mantra steps in as a reminder, this is the real me. This is the line I don't cross. The more you live by it, the more your mantra becomes a part of your identity. At first, you may need to consciously remind yourself to use it. Over time, it will become automatic. You'll catch yourself about to react in a way that doesn't serve you, and the mantra will surface without effort. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of philosophy as a way of life. It's not about theory. It's about what you do when it matters most. And here's the thing, your mantra doesn't have to be serious all the time. It can be light, even playful, as long as it works for you. The point isn't to sound wise, it's to guide your behavior in a way that aligns with your values. Some people even have different mantras for different situations. One for patience, one for courage, one for self-compassion. The important part is that each one feels authentic and actionable. You may also find that your mantra evolves over time. As you grow, your priorities shift. The words that once motivated you might not hold the same weight later. That's okay. The Stoics constantly revised their own reflections because life is never static. The key is to keep your mantra relevant to the person you are becoming, not just the person you are now. Aristotle said, "The energy of the mind is the essence of life." Repeating your mantra focuses that energy, directing it toward the person you want to become. And in a world full of distractions, provocations, and challenges, having that anchor can mean the difference between living reactively and living deliberately. Take the time to create your own personal mantra. Make it short, make it yours, make it something that feels like a promise you refuse to break. And then practice it until it's a part of you. Because when the emotional storms come, and they will, those few words might be the one thing that keeps you standing firm, facing the wind, and walking away with your integrity intact. That's the kind of strength the Stoics understood. And that's the kind of strength you can build, one repetition at a time. 12th, breathe like you mean it. It's strange how, in moments of stress, the very thing keeping us alive is the first thing we forget to do properly. We've been breathing since the moment we were born, and yet when emotions spiral, our breath becomes shallow, fast, and erratic, almost as if our body has switched into survival mode without asking for our permission. In those moments, we don't notice it happening. We just feel the tension in our shoulders, the tightness in our chest, the racing of our thoughts. But here's the truth. Your breath is more than just an automatic function. It's your built-in control panel. The Stoics didn't have the language of modern neuroscience, but they understood this principle well. When life throws something at you that stirs up fear, anger, or anxiety, your body prepares for battle. Your sympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for the fight or flight response, kicks in. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your breathing speeds up to get more oxygen to your body for action. That's great if you're running from danger, but most of the time, the danger is an email, a conversation, or an unexpected piece of news. Our body is reacting as if it's life or death, even when it isn't. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Becoming aware of your breath in those moments is a way of making the unconscious conscious. It's realizing, I am safe right now, and I can tell my body to stand down. Deep, intentional breathing is like sending a signal to your brain. We're okay. We don't need to fight. We can think clearly. Inhaling deeply activates the sympathetic nervous system in a measured, controlled way, giving you the energy to remain present without tipping into panic. Long, slow exhales activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part that calms you down, lowers your heart rate, and restores balance. The Stoics may have framed this differently, speaking about maintaining equanimity in the face of chaos, but the effect is the same. By controlling your breath, you control the doorway between chaos and calm. Think about the last time you were caught off guard by something stressful. Maybe it was a sharp comment in a meeting, a sudden change of plans, or a personal conflict. Chances are your breath changed before you even realized it, shorter, quicker, higher in your chest. That's your cue. The moment you notice it, you can interrupt the spiral. One slow inhale, hold for a beat. One long, slow exhale. It sounds too simple to work, but simplicity is often where the real power lies. The Stoics thrived on practices that were straightforward but transformative. They knew that the more complicated the tool, the harder it is to use in moments of real pressure. Shallow, rapid breathing feeds that imagination. It tells your mind that something is wrong, even when nothing is actively threatening you. But slow, steady breathing keeps you tethered to reality. It draws your awareness back to this exact moment, rather than letting your mind spin into what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. And that's the beauty of the breath. It is always happening here and now. It's the most accessible anchor you have. From a psychological standpoint, deliberate breathing has measurable effects. Studies show it can reduce cortisol levels, the stress hormone, improve focus, and even lower blood pressure. But the value isn't just in the biological changes, it's in the shift of perspective it creates. When you slow your breath, you're telling yourself, I am not helpless. I have tools. I can choose how to meet this moment. Making conscious breathing a habit means excellence in emotional control becomes second nature, not just something you reach for in emergencies. The Stoics also spoke about preparation. Marcus Aurelius would start his day reminding himself that he would encounter rudeness, arrogance, and misunderstanding, and that these things need not disturb his mind. You can do the same with your breath. Practice when you're calm so it's second nature when you're not. Take a few minutes each morning to sit quietly, breathing in deeply for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 6. Feel your shoulders drop. Feel your jaw unclench. This isn't wasted time. It's training for when the real test comes. And the real test will come. You'll find yourself in traffic, feeling the heat rise in your face. You'll get that message that makes your chest tighten. Someone will push your buttons without warning. In those moments, it's easy to get pulled into the current of reaction. But here's where breathing with intention changes everything. Choosing to pause and breathe means choosing not to become the worst version of yourself in response to the situation. It means buying yourself a few seconds to remember your values, your goals, and your composure. This is why breathing is more than just a relaxation technique. It's a form of self-mastery. The Stoics aim to remain steady regardless of external events. Breath is the bridge between the body's instinct to react and the mind's ability to respond. By focusing on it, you're not suppressing your emotions. You're creating enough space to decide how you want to engage with them. That space, those few extra seconds, are often the difference between regret and self-respect. It's worth noting that not all breathing is equal. When you're stressed, you might think you're taking deep breaths when you're really just expanding your chest. True calming breaths come from the diaphragm. Place a hand on your stomach. When you inhale, your stomach should rise more than your chest. This sends the strongest signal to your nervous system that it's time to calm down. Long exhales are especially important. They're like hitting the brakes on your body's stress response. There's also something grounding about making breath your focus. When you count the length of your inhale and exhale, you pull your mind away from the source of stress and into something simple and constant. This mirrors the Stoic practice of focusing on what's within your control. You can't control the traffic, the email, or the other person's tone, but you can control your breath in this moment. And that's enough to start shifting the entire situation. Over time, breathing like you mean it changes the way you move through the world. You become less reactive, not because life gets easier, but because you've built a habit of creating space between stimulus and response. You stop getting swept away by every emotional wave because you've learned how to steady the boat before the water even gets rough. And it's not just about managing negative emotions. Intentional breathing can deepen positive ones too. Taking a few slow breaths during a joyful or peaceful moment helps you fully absorb it, anchoring it in your memory. The Stoics believed in living in harmony with nature, and what's more natural than the breath? It's the rhythm of life itself, a reminder that you are here, alive, and capable of meeting whatever comes your way. Jung once remarked that who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Breathing is one of the simplest ways to look inside, to awaken to what's happening in your mind and body before it spills out into your words and actions. The next time you feel emotions start to spiral, don't underestimate the simplest tool you have. One slow inhale, one long exhale, repeat. This isn't weakness, it's not avoidance, it's reclaiming control in the most immediate, tangible way possible. Because when you breathe like you mean it, you're not just calming your body, you're telling your mind, I am here, I am steady, I choose how I meet this moment. And that choice is where real strength lives. In the end, your breath, your mind, and your choices are yours alone. No storm, no chaos, no person can take that from you unless you hand it over. Guard it well. Let every inhale remind you of your strength, and every exhale release what you cannot control. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. If you're ready to take this journey even deeper, watch one of the suggested videos on your screen now. Your next step toward calm, clarity, and self-mastery is just one click away.